Good morning, everybody. Welcome back here to Q13 Fox News this morning. Thanks for waking up with us on your Wednesday, just about 5:30 right now.
Let's get a check of our weather right now with Tim Joyce.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Good morning, everyone. Last full day of winter, kind of feeling like it today as a front poised to move across the region, delivering some rain at times for us today, and maybe even a little bit of breezy conditions getting into the second half of the day. Otherwise, though, steady light rain in areas around Everett and up to the north, a little bit of pockets of drizzle around Seattle so far this morning, and temperatures not too bad as we look towards mostly temps in the 40s heading out the door in Everett right now. Around Tacoma, dry and 44, and here in Seattle, we're at 48 degrees, holding steady in the next 30 minutes or so in the upper end of the 40s. So a jacket with a hood or an umbrella will do you quite well for today. And breaking down how today shapes up, got some showers out there now. Steady light rain through most of the morning commute, and then it tapers off into some showers. Partly cloudy skies late tonight. That's going to allow our temperatures to drop pretty frostily down into the 30s. We'll break down a pretty nice weekend forecast. That's coming up at 5:45. Now here's Adam.
Yeah, and this morning what we'll see here is not a whole lot to really hold us back as far as major accidents are concerned or anything of that nature. We do see, and let me show you this DOT camera shot real close here, one little disabled vehicle on northbound I-5, right there in the main line as you're making your way in through Tacoma. That's the extent of it. All right. You'll find northbound on the Valley Freeway still the slowing getting out of Sumner, Pacific, and Algona, the bigger backup right now. You'll find the Valley Freeway and I-5 from 18 up to 516 into South Center. Noticing North 405 and northbound I-5 moving into Seattle and Bellevue reasonably speeded, and you'll find 520 and I-90 nicely done. Out of the north, South 5 and 405, no major complaints or hangups quite yet. Kelly, Bill, back over to you.
And now to the latest on the tragic helicopter crash in Seattle that killed 2 journalists on board. The crash scene in front of the Space Needle is now cleared and Broad Street is back open.
But the investigation is far from over. The NTSB will hold another press briefing today. We're also told a preliminary report should be out within 5 days. It's still unclear at this point why the KOMO News chopper plunged to the ground yesterday morning. It was trying to take off when something went terribly wrong. It hit the ground and exploded. The 2 people on board likely died on impact. Pilot Gary Fitzner and longtime photographer Bill Strothman both died. 3 cars quickly caught on fire. The driver of this red car right here managed to escape on his own, but witnesses say he was on fire. Richard Newman is still in the hospital this morning. We will have an update on his condition in just a minute. But as far as the investigation is concerned, the wreckage is now at a hangar in Auburn where investigators will reconstruct the crash site.
Right now, we're looking at everything. We're looking at the environment, the weather, the pilot, the operators in the helicopter, as well as the helicopter itself.
Investigators say it could be months, maybe even an entire year before they know exactly what brought down that chopper.
Richard Newman was driving on Broad Street yesterday morning when that helicopter crashed on his car. He is recovering at Harborview this morning. His family right by his side as he begins a painful recovery. The 38-year-old has 2nd and 3rd degree burns on about 20% of his body, mostly on his lower back and upper torso. Witnesses say that helicopter crashed down right on top of his car. He managed to jump out while on fire and drop down on the lawn to put out the flames.
We are seeing improvement, and he's got a lot of support here to help him get through it.
Once his condition improves, he will undergo several surgeries. Harborview has one of the top trauma centers in the nation, especially when it comes to treating severe burns.
A memorial continues to grow this morning at the site of where that helicopter went down. It's a loss that has impacted the entire city of Seattle. Here's a live look of this memorial right now. Flowers, pictures, candles. Tina Patel has more.
Bob Thronson couldn't believe it when he heard about the crash and the death of his former colleague, Bill Strothman.
My heart was shredded. He was somebody I had worked with for 30 years, somebody who was an extraordinary photojournalist, a passionate guy, a great friend.
Strothman had worked in the KOMO newsroom since 1979, retiring from full-time work in 2008, but continuing to freelance for the station. Travis Mayfield, who now works at Q13 Fox, was a friend of his.
You can't talk to a person who has worked in that newsroom over the last 30 years, who didn't know him, who doesn't have a story about him, who doesn't have a Bill adventure. The man defined journalism.
He made me better. He made everybody he worked with better just by the way he approached stories by the way he approached people, by the way he approached life.
Friends say Gary Fitzner, an experienced helicopter pilot, also had a great spirit and a love for flying.
Gary is the kind of guy who you'd pass him in the hallway or in the lunchroom and he always had a smile on his face.
I know for a fact that Gary was doing everything he could to try to regain or maintain control of that aircraft and, if possible, steer it away from people and cars and vehicles and stuff on the ground. I know that that was the last thing he was doing.
For those who work in the news business, it's been difficult today to cover a story that hits so close to home.
We cover tragedies all the time, or in the news business, and it affects you even when it's not somebody you know. But when it's somebody that you've known for years and work with on a daily basis, it hurts.
But their colleagues have a chance to make sure these two men won't be forgotten.
Photographers rarely get seen on TV, and that's, I guess, the way it's supposed to be. But without people like Bill Strothman, no story gets told on television.
Tina Patel, Q13 Fox News.
KOMO issuing this statement about the crash. Quote, "We are deeply saddened by this tragedy. The pilot and the photographer who lost their lives were like family to us here at the station. We are grieving for them, their families, and the on-ground victims who were injured in this horrific event." Governor Jay Inslee also releasing a statement sending condolences to the KOMO News family. He said, quote, "Our hearts go out to you. I know the people of Seattle and the people of Washington are keeping you in their thoughts. We also hope for the best for those injured."
Of course, you can find more on this crash and also the questions being asked by city leaders now on our website for full coverage. It's on the main page, Q13Fox.com.
5:36 right now. Jim Compton, a respected TV journalist and former Seattle City Councilman, has died. Compton was best known as the host of the Compton Report, which ran on King 5 for 10 years. According to the Seattle Times, his body was found in his car in North Seattle yesterday morning with the keys in the ignition. His wife tells the Times that he died of an apparent heart attack. The King County Medical Examiner has not released an official cause of death. Jim Compton was 72 years old.
The head of our state's ferry system now stepping down. David Mosley took the job 6 years ago, and according to the Times, he says he's leaving the system in a better state than when he took it over, pointing to the progress in building newer, safer boats. But he also warned that the system needs some sustainable funding to keep the ferry system running. He resigns April 15th.
Happening today, Starbucks holding its annual shareholders meeting in Seattle. CEO Howard Schultz speaking to the coffee giant's shareholders at McCaw Hall at Seattle Center. That meeting expected to go from 10 until noon. Among the items on the agenda, a review of how the company performed in the past fiscal year and also voting on some company proposals. Traffic may be busy around Seattle Center because of that meeting this morning.
Also today, the Seattle School Board is expected to look at budget cuts at a meeting. The district is facing a $15 million shortfall. Officials are proposing cutting pay in half for secretaries, librarians, counselors, and assistant principals. Officials say that could save potentially $3 million. That meeting is held at 4:15 today at the John Stanford Center. The board also expected to look at school start times today. Some parents want a later start time for secondary students, saying it would help them stay awake during class. A rally for later start times being held again 4 to 6 today.
We're following breaking news. Police have a suspect under arrest for stabbing and sexual assault in North Bend. A restaurant employee at Jay Berry's was attacked while closing up for the night earlier this month. The 41-year-old suspect has been booked into King County Jail. Meantime, arraignment scheduled this morning for the White Center man accused of murdering a woman in West Seattle. Jose Gonzalez Leos, charged with first-degree murder. Police say he confessed to beating and strangling Nya Nguyen in her home last December. He's an ex-boyfriend of the woman's daughter. Police say they found his DNA at the murder scene and items belonging to the murdered woman were found in his home. He's being held on $2 million bail. He's expected in court at 8:30. The woman accused of attacking a pair of homeless men in Pioneer Square is back in court today. Mia Jarvanine waived her appearance at a bail hearing on Monday. Court documents show Jarvanine kicked a homeless man's food, and that's when Seattle firefighter Robert Howell allegedly began punching and stomping the man. Fellow firefighter Scott Boleen then allegedly began beating another man with a wooden stick. Both firefighters are on leave during the investigation. Jarvanine's bail is set at $20,000. She is expected in court this afternoon.
Seattle parents are going to meet tonight to talk about a rise in alcohol and drug use among teens. Roosevelt High School is holding a meeting tonight. It's at 7 o'clock. A doctor from Seattle Children's Hospital will be on hand to talk about what parents can do to prevent drug use among their kids. School officials say they've seen more students either under the influence or in possession of pot or alcohol at school, especially among the freshman class. Still ahead here this morning, a powerful reminder to protect your sensitive data. Personal information of 20,000 workers at the IRS just swiped by an employee. How that employee managed to pull it off.
Also in the market for a new phone, Apple unveiling a new, cheaper iPhone 5C. What it'll cost you to get your hands on one of those.
And I'm meteorologist Tim Joyce. Rain moving into the forecast for us around western Washington. If it's not raining at your house, it will be before the day is over. Heading out the door here in Seattle in the next 30 minutes, you'll be dealing with some light rain out there. Temperatures in the upper end of the 40s, a jacket with a hood or an umbrella, both pretty good ideas to take on the day. Your comprehensive forecast after the break.
And no collisions to report on the roads, but volumes are building. We'll show you where coming up next.